This is a working nuclear missile. It has great mod-powered rocket engines, a guidance system, and a nuclear payload, which means it can annihilate any village I want anywhere in the world. Today, we're going to be working our way up from simple bombs to basic missiles, and finally, a complete nuclear ICBM with a programmable guidance system, all while learning as much as possible about great mod rocket engineering. Let's get started. Yeah, so there was a village right here at a certain point, and it's gone now. How very unfortunate. That was a nuke from the Valkyrien mod, detonated in the normal way on the ground as part of the world. What we're going to do now is find out if it detonates that way when it is attached to a physics entity, like a bomb or a missile. It seems like it was built with distant horizons in mind, because that is well outside of our render distance. That's all distant horizon stuff, but these particles are being rendered quite far away, so that looks nice. So we're still going to be using this optical laser in order to detect when it hits the ground, and we're going to use it. We're going to get the redstone power out of it, so let's make that stone. This is the fission bomb. It needs redstone power at the top of it. You also actually have to put stuff in here. You have to put the implosion lenses and the fission core. And lastly, we're going to attach some fins to this and hope that this will detonate and affect the world once it falls. We seem to, oh, never mind. Never mind. No, it's working. I see the village is gone. The village is very gone, guys. That is a physics entity nuclear bomb in crate mod. Of course, to turn it into a missile, it just needs a rocket booster. There's three main things we need to figure out in order to make a proper nuclear missile, and we've just done the first of them. We've just determined that we can detonate nukes off physics entities and it affects the world. So that's good. The second thing though is, can we make the physics entity chunk loaded? Like, can we send it unmanned really far elsewhere in the world, well outside of the render distance, like a proper missile? That's what we've got to find out next. And after that, we have to find out if we can make a guidance system. This is a very simple rocket right here. I push the button and away it goes until it unloads. And as you see there, we have a bit of a problem. Hopefully one that can be overcome. You see, if I move closer to it, it comes back in and it's falling down now. Also, it will not explode because I don't need more explosions right this moment. But the issue is, what if I want it to keep going? Obviously we want it to keep going. It doesn't do me any good if it goes a few hundred blocks away and unloads unceremoniously. But I don't know if this is gonna, and honestly don't know if this is gonna work. So there are a couple possible solutions, like this is a chunk loader from Tournament. Does this help at all? Like, I can't interact with it. There's a few other chunk loaders we can try. Our options may be limited though, unfortunately. Let's just launch it and see. I feel like it added a lot of weight. Oh yes, it did. It did not go anywhere near as high as it needed to unload, so let's upgrade the booster. That's better. So it has this. We should expect it to come back though. No, that did not keep it loaded, and I also saw it reset its momentum and directions seemingly at that point, which is also not good. So we have another type of chunk loader that we could try. Yeah, I don't think that is keeping it loaded either, unfortunately. There may actually just be no way to do it at all, which Would be unfortunate, but I'm gonna keep looking. I don't actually think it's possible to keep these things loading the chunks around them, because it kind of needs to be able to load the world that it's in, not just itself. Some of these things may already be loading the physics entity. It might even be possible to travel to the shipyard, quote unquote, and chunk load there, and then maybe it would somehow keep the entity chunk loaded. But the problem is, once it passes into chunks that are not loaded just around here or anywhere in the world, it loses all of its momentum. So it can't exactly keep flying. Actual multi-block missiles don't seem to work unless I ride them myself, as a sacrifice, of course, to wherever is getting nuked. Then it works just fine. But aside from that, I'm gonna have to outsource this to you guys. Maybe there's a big brain person in the comments who will know of a way to load that missile behind me and the chunks around it as it flies without me on the missile. And that would be great, and I'll be able to do that after this video.
The missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't.
No, it actually has no idea where it is, which we kind of need to try to fix. At least it needs to know how to move somewhere that it currently isn't. So right here, this missile is, it's got these flaps in both sides, and the center of mass is toward the front. So let's lie this on its side, and let's lift it up and point it down. And you'll see that it tends to fall toward where the center of mass is. Let's put some weight here, and now it's pretty much centered. So if we lifted it up, it's going to still fall down. There we go. That's because of the flaps here. So if the flaps were not actually here, we would see that it is, well, let's see. I don't know what it's going to do. Oh, it remains basically steady. So the flaps do definitely affect it a lot. What if we have it launched from a sloped position like this? Let's lean it up against this wall and try to launch it like that. I would say though, these do not work well with an angled launch. It seems like it's probably a lot better to launch them vertically, then find out how to turn them, which is what a lot of missiles do. This missile has 4 tiny thrusters and 4 different links that I can control with this. As you can see, we can spin it in a lot of weird directions. What we're going to do now is I'm going to ride it myself, and I'm going to see what happens when we start messing with this in flight. Not as much as you'd expect. I kind of need to have the thrust be continuous to see. Here, I can send this into the air myself. So, what happens if we start applying power in a different direction? Feels like they're not strong enough actually, because I moved it, but like not that much. Also, applying this kind of thrust in either direction might be more effective toward the end of the rocket, not in the middle. Also, I'm really far away, guys. Look, I'm over here and I started right here. It felt like the directional thrust was much less strong when you were using the booster. Oh yeah, it definitely is. Can I keep myself in the air now? It feels like it's not doing anything now. That is a gyroscope, and it actually does nothing useful for me here that I can identify. It does help keep ships upright, depending on how you configure it. So like if I push this button here, we're gonna be now using the gyroscope to point in that direction. So even if I flung it, it's gonna very determinedly stay that way. Or if I did this, it's gonna start changing a lot. It may still be on its side, yep, but now it's reorienting. Mainly, it was just, if this worked the way I imagined, it would be a way to, like, get it to change the orientation mid-flight and be like, okay, you're gonna go from straight up to turn 90 degrees and then fly that way or something. But it doesn't seem like it's able to do that. It seems to be entirely player controlled. So we're gonna get rid of this, but I also added this little color coding thing. So what that does is it just makes me able to, when I'm looking at it, my controls here actually make sense. For example, let's say I want to go in that direction. So I'd get in and then I would activate the rocket booster and then I would know which button to push to turn myself that way. For some reason, as you speed up though, when you're using the rocket booster back there, it seems to really not respond. And then once you get to like a certain speed, it also stops responding. Like, see, it's like not doing anything. I'm not sure what's up with that, but it kind of means you have to set your course very early in the flight and then just kind of go, because it doesn't seem to readjust very well. Obviously, the higher in the air you go before turning and flying in a certain direction, the farther you're going to go. And I have just the way to program this automatically. This block is going to come in very handy because it is an altitude meter and it measures the altitude that you set here. Like, I don't know, we'll set that, and then once it discovers that it's at that altitude, it will emit a redstone signal. We are currently at -60, so possibly if I went to -60, wow, would you look at that? We get a redstone signal. With this, the missile will be able to know one metric of where it is. In order to use this though, we're going to want a bigger missile. And for a bigger missile, we are going to equip it with an actual rocket thruster, not a little firework. We're going to be using this thing. Honestly, the gyro might be useful on a larger rocket that's more likely to be subtly unbalanced like this one seems to be, because you can turn the gyro on and off really easily by cutting rotational power to it. So spinning the gyro while it's launching would keep it from going in a weird direction. This should shut off the engines once it reaches 400 blocks. Yes! Look at that! Oh, and we're through the clouds. The gyro seems to be doing a pretty good job as well. Whoa! Wow, we just jumped all the way to 800 blocks. Okay. Yeah, so it shut off 400 blocks ago. But it continued going a lot farther. That's partially because this thing doesn't weigh very much. So the other thing we can do is we can obviously have it shut off once it reaches a certain height, but we can then use that redstone signal to trigger a different thruster to turn it 90 degrees or whatever and point it in a different direction. And then even we could use it to activate the boosters again, if we want, all by keeping track of the numbers of redstone signals. So we can get pretty fancy with this, but we are very quickly going to want to just make the actual aesthetic design, because then we'll know how much room we have to fit flight controls into this thing. And of course, a nuke, or multiple of them, or fusion bombs, whatever. This is about the rocket shape that we're going to end up with. You can see I've already built this to look decorative down here to determine the size. And it allows us to have a 3x3 area in here that we can work with for part of the rocket before it tapers toward the top. What I'm working on now is I'm going to add an onboard power generation to this so that we only pump in fuel. So this very compact thing is able to contain an engine, the fuel pumps, and the gyro spinner, which is turned off by default. Which means that all that's left is the targeting guidance system. That is what I call a missile that knows where it is, kind of. It's actually able to send it to a configurable height, and then it stops the main boosters, fires one of the top orientation boosters for a configurable amount of time, and then it turns the main boosters back on, also for a configurable amount of time, until shutting them off again. All of that is self-contained within the rocket itself. We're oriented in that direction, so let's try to actually go over there. Let's go to only 150 blocks before we cut the booster. So all of this there's actually two different self-sabotage systems. Actually, no, there's three, sorry. There's three things in here that basically, once it fires the first time, it cuts it off so it can't get cycled through again. And that's how this is able to work. So that technically turns on the engine, it turns on the gyro. These are on now. So if we go up here and we let this thing fly, we're gonna go up for 150 blocks, or 2Y 150. And engines are cut. There goes the booster at the top. Engines are back on. And we are going, but not very far. Okay, so that was actually a lot less, apparently. Interesting. That makes me feel like it fired the orientation booster too long. So we come over here. This is the thing for controlling that booster. So let's set it to like 20 ticks to fire it and see how much that changes it. Booster's off. Yep. Oh, and yes, look at that. It turned us way less than before. And also we're going to be going way farther now because we're a lot less pointed to the ground. We're overshooting our base again. Oh yeah. So I will say that these missiles are very single use if they were actually had like a bomb attached to them or a nuke. It also breaks its own guidance control system as it goes through it so that it can't reuse it. I almost debated putting TNT there just to blow the whole thing up after a certain point, but I think that would disrupt the flight as well, and that would be annoying for testing. You kind of have to manually configure which booster you want to fire. I don't know, it's not advanced enough yet that I could have like multiple inputs. I'm sure that we could, but that would be like extra fancy. And I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to do that today. Anyways, I think that's a pretty good guidance system. We'll test it more later, but I'm just going to go ahead and build the rest of the aesthetics of this and then make sure that I optimize the center of gravity or the center of mass, because it really has to be in the center for it to not go in any direction during takeoff. Like even this was still drifting slightly during takeoff, and I already had to try to compensate it somewhat. We now have two rockets. That's the original one, that's the new one. The only difference is that the nuke on it is actually armed. It has all the stuff it needs, and it's got a receiver that's ready to explode. So, what we're gonna do is launch this in a random direction and see if it works. And if it does, that means we have a working ICBM nuclear missile. Yep, it looks like the missile is a success. Not that I actually know very well how to send it where it needs to go, but all the tools are there for you being able to do that, between changing the times for firing of boosters and things, and also the strength of these boosters and the height at which you go to. You could probably get it pretty precise. I did spend a lot of time making sure that the center of mass was almost perfectly lined up, like very, 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 very close. So it can travel like 1,000 blocks straight up without deviating too much. Like, it will start to deviate eventually, but since this build has a lot of stuff, it became really hard to actually like optimize it and ensure that it's perfectly balanced. Like, there's weird things like lecterns and like slabs, so like planks and stuff flying around there. All that's just to like try to optimize the perfect weight. But we've had a successful couple nuke detonations. Now we're just gonna try one more thing. There is a fusion bomb, which is a bigger nuke. So we're gonna attach this to the missile, and we're gonna see just how big this explosion is. Is that where you can attach something? Yes. Whoever this hits is gonna be in for a bad time. Now that's what I call a proper explosion. Although I'm not convinced that that's actually any bigger. It really doesn't look bigger, so I'm not sure what the deal is with that. That was a fun video. I'm looking forward to being able to experiment more with rocket technology using Create Mod. I have some ideas for even more realistic rockets that we could make, requiring some extra features, maybe a little bit bigger, but maybe not. Of course, they can carry nukes or other weapons. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to drop a like and hit that subscribe button down below. I'm not going to be updating the mod pack this week because I don't know what Warium will do in survival mode. I have not had time to check it out, and before I go including it in the next update, I want to go find that out, so it'll probably be a week away or something like that. In the meantime, though, if you want to use this, I'm going to put it on Patreon, and if you want to use the schematic, you just need to add Warium separately. I think it works pretty much out of the box. So you can go get the schematic of this if you want over on Patreon. But until next time, I've been Sbeev. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.